Hi, thanks for buying the DVD. I appreciate it. I'm about to tell you a true story, and it happened to me, so you're going to hear it firsthand. I decided to become a priest when I was 14 years old. Well, I guess I was 13, but I turned 14 in August of the year that I made this decision. I have another story that backs this up. It happened to me when I was 14 years old. And it really is a basis for why I would decide to do such a thing as become a priest. So I'm not going to really talk about all that right now. And if you like, you can get that other DVD about what happened to me at 4. Okay. But this story takes place in October of 1969. It's almost 8 o'clock at night, kind of dark out. And I'm up in a small, tiny town called Callicoon, New York. It's upstate New York in the farmlands, situated in the Catskill Mountains, along the Delaware River, bordering on the Pennsylvania state line. Really wooded. I'm trying to draw a picture here of a October fall night in upstate New York in a monastery, in a seminary called St. Joseph's Seraphic Seminary. Again, I'm attending this seminary enrolled, if you will, as a student with the purpose of becoming a Catholic priest. It takes 13 years to go through the program, and then you are an ordained priest in the Catholic Church. So, the title of the book is Hey God, It's Me Hobo. And it has to do with a discussion that I had with God that resulted in God appearing face to face before me. The seminary is a magnificent facility. It's no longer a seminary. It closed up about 4 years after I left it and is now a Job Corps, a federal Job Corps center. But this story has a lot to do with the building because of the size of it and the various external or exterior other buildings and the pathways and ways of getting around the campus. These the size of the building and the location of various things within it caused me to be in a situation that resulted in me meeting God face to face on this night. It all begins with a phone call uh, that I had received, and notification of the phone call came to me from Father Roderick, a really cool priest, and he was sort of the monitor in the dorm that evening. And I was in the dormitories with all the other students, and we were studying. It was a study time prior to lights out, and Father Roderick showed up and informed me that I had a phone call, and I had to go down into the main building to take the phone call. There were no cell phones back then, and a big old monastery like this, you wouldn't figure it this way, but they had a very small phone room in one of the rooms down in the main building along a long hallway, and that's where you would go and receive a phone call that came in. The nature of the phone call was a sad note. It was one of those types of phone calls that comes in the night that you don't want to get. It was my father on the other end of the line informing me that my grandmother, his mother, had passed away. And I wasn't unaware of her illness. She was battling lung cancer. And of course, this is back in a time when there wasn't a whole lot of great technology against it. So she passed away, and my father informed me that he was going to come and get me the next day, and I would go home for a few days and attend the funeral. This left me feeling quite sad, obviously, and I'd been away from home now for a couple of months. I was young. It was my first time being away from home. I suppose I was under the influence of being homesick as well. And on top of that, I was unsure. I wasn't sure. I was unsure, and I was not sure about the choice I had made to enter the priesthood. Um, I was wrestling with the vocation. So there I was in this little dark, dimly lit phone room by myself in this huge place that only had 57 students in it. And I had just gotten this news about my grandmother, and somehow or another it just caused the rest of the questions and confusion in me to come up at all at the same time. And so I was facing all sorts of different thoughts and emotions. And again, in a really huge place with nobody around to really talk with. I've only been there a couple of months, hadn't really made any, close friends or anything like that. So I find myself now in this state of being and state of mind, if you will, and in this place. And I'm making big decisions, about my life. It takes 13 years to become a priest. And on top of that, now I'm going to have to, pretty much stop what I'm doing and go back to life that involves family and people I care about. And so, having been in the seminary for a couple of months and seeing what I had seen, I I didn't feel as if I was going to gain much spirituality there or be able to achieve what my goal was for going there. And being that family matters were important, I felt like I could be more beneficial if I was to just leave the seminary and go home and be with my family. So these were the ideas that I was facing, and I had a little time that I could kill before I went back to the dormitory because I was, had permission to be out of the dormitory. So I felt as if I could take a little time to maybe walk back to the dormitory, maybe go a different way back, and just do some contemplation and think about things and try to make a decision about what I was going to do when my father showed up. Would I be there with an overnight bag or all of my luggage? It was basically what I was thinking about. So it was still not time for lights out. It was about 8:30 or so, and I was thinking about how to get out of this building. There I am in the main building in this little room. I'd come in from one direction, and I could go back that way, down that long hall, out through the dining hall and up to the dormitories, sort of the way I came in. Or I could go out another direction that would take me out the backside of the main building, not through the dining hall. And will put me out in the sort of back courtyard where the pond is there, and there's a gymnasium. And I just thought I could just sort of see myself out there taking my time in the fresh air and think about things. There the courtyard is in the back, and those are all the classrooms that we would use for classes. So I was familiar with that part of the campus, and like I said, sort of thought of myself going out there to catch my breath and just think about what I might do next. So rather than go back the direction I came in, I was going to go out the other way that I'm showing you there from the phone room. And so I did. I began to walk down the hall to go out that back way. I decided, I was going to kill that last hour before lights out by myself, just sort of going through the thoughts about what I would do next. And right there where the arrow is, I was faced with an option, something I hadn't thought about, something I wasn't intending. But right there where I would take a right and go out the back of this main building and then off to the dormitories, there's a long hallway to the left that leads to that church that you see there, and that's the seminary church. It's called the Holy Cross Church. The local parish uses it as well on Sundays and so forth. So there I am, wanting to think about things, wanting to contemplate on what my next move would be, and then there's the church, the option for me to go in there. Excuse me. Well, we're not going to edit this tape, so and no commercials, so I suppose that's a plus. Excuse me for that. Anyway, I'm there at that juncture in the building that I was showing you, and I see the hallway toward the church, and I'm thinking, wow, man, this might be the place for me to go. Um, I wanted to have a talk with God before I made a decision about whether I would leave the seminary for good or come back after the funeral. That was what was in my mind. And I said, you know what? I'm going to settle this man to man with God. And so maybe it was the only place left for me to go. Maybe it was something I needed to discuss with God rather than try to figure it all out myself. And so the candles, the stained glass windows, the atmosphere of a sanctuary drew me in, and I took that left and went into the church, the seminary church. And as soon as I opened the doors, which were closed, I was met by the atmosphere that I'm describing. It was rather dark in there. Some of the lights were on very low. A lot of candles were burning, as you would find in a church, votive lamps, prayer candles. And despite the fact that it was, quite dark outside, these were old antique stained glass windows that were put into this church, and anybody who knows this art and this craft knows that they will even pass light through them even when it's dark out. It's very cool. So I slid into a pew, and again, I'm intending, I don't know how it developed in me to be a full thought, an active thought that I would act upon, but it was pretty quick. I said, you know what, I want to have a talk with God man to man. And even though I didn't really believe in God, I sort of had a faith, a very slight one. That's what got me in. I was hoping to grow it in there, but that wasn't going to happen by the way things looked. And again, the place closed up a few years later, so maybe that's evidence to the what I'm saying, anyways. That what I was looking for in support and growth in my own spirituality just didn't seem to be there. So I determined that I would speak with God man to man, face to face, if you will. And even though it was just me sitting there, as far as I could tell, I determined to pull the kneeler down and kneel very respectfully, straight up, not leaning on the front pew or crouching or any of that. So I really presented myself as one who was showing respect and was expecting it back. I know I was bold for 14. And then I began to speak to God silently within myself. I said, God, um, I'm only 14 years old. I really feel that I've been called to this place to try to serve uh, in a organization that proposed to do good worldwide. I was leaving other choices and options that were available to me back in my hometown. And I spoke to God and I said, I'm just a young guy and I'm here and I don't have a whole lot of faith in what I'm doing, but I really think it's necessary, and that somehow or another I'm needed to come and involve myself in spiritual work in life. So I was presenting myself in this way. I was maybe talking to myself as well. I was being careful that I wasn't out of line, you know, mad or angry or any of that. I was very honest and very sincere. The same conviction that caused me to choose to go to the seminary was acting within me at this moment. A young man with determination and with faith that my life was worth something to some cause, to something bigger than myself. So the first couple of months in the seminary didn't leave me believing that I had joined up with an organization that was going to be doing anything that substantial other than what it had been doing, or at least what it appeared to be doing. So, I said to God, I said, listen, I'm here. I'm stepped up. I'm just a young kid. Where are you, God? Come all the way from my hometown, left my family, left my friends, possible girlfriends, and stuff like that. And I'm here in this seminary, and I fully expected that when I get here, I'm going to, like, be in your presence and be around people that are full of your presence, and just uh, my faith, which was young and lacking, that would grow strong, and I would enter into a great relationship with you, God, and become a great servant to the people. And so I told God I wondered why God wasn't present or so obvious there at the seminary, in a place that you would think that it would be otherwise. And so I made a bargain, not a deal. I made a bargain with God. I said, God, I'm prepared to give you the rest of my life to do whatever it is that I'm led to do, whatever I feel that it is you would have me do, whatever is right to do in the spiritual life and service of people in the world. I'm prepared to do this, even though it's not really what I want to do. But I'm prepared to do it because I believe it's what's needed, and I feel like I can help. But before I go ahead and fully commit to this, especially after what I have seen here and the lacking that I've noticed here in the seminary, before I take up this challenge, which will probably involve me having to lead the way at some point in time, I need to know for sure that you exist. I need absolute proof that you are actual. Now, I know that this is, in some people's minds, blasphemy to demand God show God's self. But I reminded God that I was showing myself. And if I could do it, then God could. And I reminded God that I was very sincere, very honest, and full of intention, and that my word was good. And that if God would just give me one sign, something for real, something actual, that would make me know that I was not alone, that I would carry on and keep my word all the days of my life in whatever way I could feel and see that it was God's will for me. So I was sitting there, and well, I wasn't sitting, I was kneeling, and I'm trying to figure out just, what might happen if God did show up. I'm thinking of all these different things, he might pop out from behind an altar curtain, or walk in through them same doors that I just came through, or maybe just materialize in the middle of the room. And at that time, I began to understand that if God was going to show up, it wouldn't be in any way I was thinking about, and that my thoughts alone could keep the thing from happening. While I was trying to clear my head of all of these thoughts, I began to feel something inside of me. And at first, I thought it was a physical feeling, and I was trying to ignore it. And the more I ignored it, I began to feel it more and more. And then I thought maybe it was just a thought, and that I was just being distracted. And then I thought maybe it was like a gas bubble in my stomach or something. I just was aware of this feeling. It was an unusual feeling, one I'd never felt before. It was right in my gut, right in my solar plexus, although I didn't know the word at the time. And it was growing, it was flowing, billowing, if you will, inside of me. And I was really starting to feel it, so much so that I concluded that it was not a thought, and that it wasn't something like a gas bubble in my intestines, or some weird rush of adrenaline, or anything like that. I was pretty much paying attention very closely, and gotten to the point where I said, wow, man, this is not, you know, I'm not the source of this thing. And eventually my whole body was like uh, a fountain, where it started as a little flow within me and then filled me. Then my whole body became like a fountain, and it began to get outside of me like a coat. But all of the while, it was still flowing from inside of me. Now, what it is that was flowing was not visible, but was knowable, feelable. I could definitely sense it. It was so there, and beginning primarily as a feeling, a very noticeable feeling, almost on a physical level, but uh, deeper than that. So as it began to uh, expand in me, it began to um, go out from me. But at no point in time did it ever stop flowing from a unknowable, non-physical center within my being, as I was observing. And it was just growing. And it went from a cloak or a coat, garment, sort of a first level of outer manifestation, to an expanding one whereby I could feel it hitting the pews. I could feel it going under the kneelers. I could feel it hit the floor. All the while it was attached to me at the same time, it still didn't seem like it was me. And it kept expanding and getting thicker. And at this point, I'm just pretty much in awe, and beginning to become quite convinced that something miraculous and substantial and unknown was happening to me. It was going beyond a belief into an absolute knowing that something's happening to me. And it just kept expanding. It went out and hit the walls of this church, a very big church. It expanded until it hit all of the walls, all the way up to the ceiling, vaulted cathedral ceilings, up to the altar, under the altar, all around all of the pews, everywhere. And I could feel everywhere it was. Excuse me. Again, I'm not going to be editing this, although I should, but I can't. Some water. A lot of times when I tell this story, stuff like that happens, and I know why. So let's get beyond this. It really did expand out, and I became fully convinced that what I had asked for was occurring, and that God was making God's presence known in a manifested way. This invisible smoke, if you will, this invisible cloud, this vibe that was coming out of me and filling the church, it began to thicken. Coalesce is the word I use, to a point where I thought it might solidify and, and go up a level that I wasn't ready for. So far, I was able to handle what was happening to me, but I really felt like it was about to take on another dimensional form and go from just a really benevolent feeling into a real personal, person to person with this incredible mystery uh, in a way that I just was already struggling to imagine. And I'm already struggling to try to tell the story because as soon as you put this thing into words, it diminishes it. So basically, I was fully convinced beyond belief into knowing and seeing uh, that God had shown up, and it scared me. And I basically thought this out that this is enough. I've seen enough. I'm convinced. I don't want to see anymore. I'm not ready, even though I didn't feel it would be negative. It just was getting so intense, and it was too big for me. And at that point, it began to just come back into me. It began to diminish outside of me and began to almost like a genie in the bottle type thing. It just began to go right back inside of me, but a lot quicker than it came out of me. It was almost like a whoop, bam, right back in it went. And the point of here is that as soon as I became afraid of it, it stopped increasing and uh, went back to a non-obvious state, you know, and within me. And although I did feel quite curious, it was nowhere near what I had felt a few seconds before. It was an obvious reduction of it, and almost to the point that I could see it reduced, but it was never a visual thing. At that point, I just simply said, "That's it. God got it. I'm convinced. My bargain is set. I give you my life, and I'll never ever doubt that your presence can be manifested." And I walked out of there. I walked out of the church, and I never told a single soul. Here I am in a seminary full of potential priest and priest, monks, stuff like this, brothers. But I thought about this for a long time after. I never told anybody about this, which I found curious as I thought about it later on, because I wondered why I didn't just immediately go to a priest and go, "Oh my God, I just had this miracle happen, and God showed up in the church down there in front of me." I say face to face because there's no other way to explain that. I asked God to prove God's self, and then this thing happened. And even though I pulled the plug on it before God actually got his physical face stuck into the church there, uh, I claim it as a face-to-face encounter because of the way it all happened. This is going to have to be re-recorded, but just to kind of finish it up, I went on to become a hobo. Traveled on the roads for over 30 years after this event. Smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and it is 6 in the morning. I'm in this school bus, man, trying like hell to put this tape together for y'all.